Thank you again, Emily, and thank you everybody at the Academy Software Foundation, everybody here today. Really excited to talk with you all about security audits. Slightly different topic than maybe some of the other talks given today, but equally important, and I'm really excited to talk with you all about it. And the title is Security Audits Are Not Scary, because the goal is to talk about the process and what we did, particularly in our engagements in collaboration with Academy Software Foundation, to show that this is a really beneficial and good exercise for projects to do that can have a lot of benefits with security uplift. My name is Amir Montazery. I'm the Managing Director of OSTIF, the Open Source Technology Improvement Fund. We are a small nonprofit that just celebrated our 10-year anniversary working with foundations, organizations, specializing in security work, namely doing security auditing for open source projects. And really kind of the central theme or idea comes from a really excellent research paper called 0 Days, Thousands of Nights, which did extensive research on vulnerabilities and bugs in code, namely zero-day vulnerabilities. And one of the main findings or conclusions from that research is this quote right here, that finding vulnerabilities often requires more in-depth auditing, logic review, and source code analysis in order to go several layers deep. So I think of this visual of mining where you could potentially go down those first 3, 4, 5 layers, not find anything and think it's potentially a wasted effort, and then you get to those last few layers and that's where you find the good stuff. And that's actually been quite consistent with our experiences, where we've typically found that in security audits, a bulk of the findings are found towards the end of the audit, after there has been that accommodation and understanding of the code base and that digging of those layers to find the vulnerabilities. And so with that, my kind of core thesis here is that security audits, when done to a high level of quality, which we'll be going into as well, are an incredibly valuable tool in the tool belt for improving the security posture of projects. Our body of work, OSTIF's body of work, spanning over 10 years, we've done well over 100 security audits at this point and have found a high amount of high critical and medium vulnerabilities. Some of them quite nasty, support this idea that these security audits can be really helpful. So the projects that we collaborated on with the Academy Software Foundation in particular were OpenEXR and MaterialX. This came about thanks to a lot of support and evangelism from the Academy Software Foundation, in particular John Murtick, who socialized the idea of doing security audits and doing these types of reviews for projects in the Academy Software Foundation project umbrella. And these two projects volunteered or stepped up, so to speak, to go through the process and work with us on these security audits. And part of the reason, as I'll get into here, that in the title I talk about applying a novel approach, the first part of what each audit covered is pretty standardized. We always focus on creating or augmenting a threat model. This is an excellent exercise to document threat actors and risk boundaries and really help the project in multiple ways. One is that it helps the auditors then focus their limited time on the most high-risk areas in the code base, and it also helps the projects by providing somewhat of a playbook to help determine risks and threats. So we have gotten a lot of feedback over the past where threat models have been used when assessing incoming vulnerability reports, for example, so that they can be analyzed against the threat model to determine or calibrate the level of risk, to then determine how best to prioritize and move forward with remediation. So yes, based off the threat model, in the most high-risk areas, there's manual review and automated analysis. We also include things like dependency review and analysis, as well as the release process, as well as fuzzing coverage. So one reason why, as mentioned in that earlier thesis of audits being done to a high level of quality, there has to be a strong alignment in terms of buy-in from the project maintainers and contributors, as well as working with the audit team. So each of these security audits were about 7 to 10 person days of effort. That's kind of where the novelty of these engagements came in, where these were considered somewhat more lightweight reviews compared to the average audit time that we see. But this was a great exercise in that it very much validated the importance of this work as a whole, where even though we weren't able to necessarily dig as deep as we wanted and spend as much time on each project, we were able to help the projects with security uplift and addressing issues and vulnerabilities. So some very high-level results, as typically happens with security audits, were findings which all resulted in fixes. I believe for OpenEXR in particular, a number of security advisories came out as well. Both projects saw increased fuzzing coverage, as well as improved release processes, and lastly, future security work recommendations. Because there's always more that can be done, of course, so it's a balancing act of being able to recommend work that is plausible and possible to implement and to improve the security posture of the projects. And the nice thing about the processes that we follow is transparency is very much valued and prioritized. So want to thank Emily Olin, who helped with the coordination of our publications of these efforts, as well as all of the security efforts that OSTIF is involved in. We typically do publish the results of the work for public scrutiny, as well as this is a great exercise as well, because the audit report produces an artifact that can be used to demonstrate investment in security and improving the security of a project, and can be a really powerful artifact for showing and displaying that investment to members, to organizations and foundations that use the software. So we're able to very definitively produce an artifact that shows that what effort has been done and the improvements that came about as a result. So similar to the first slide with the ghost, I kind of was using the concept of the classic show Scooby-Doo, where, at first there is the ghost that everyone is terrified of, and then through their processes, inference, observation, realize that at the end, usually the ghost is not as scary as it seemed. So to illustrate that, I thought I'd put this cute little graphic in here to show that the ghost is really just a little bit of coordination. Our processes in general are just a few meetings. We definitely understand, as was alluded to in some of the earlier talks, that maintainers, contributors, their time is very scarce, very valuable. So we designed our security audit processes to limit significantly the amount of disruption or the amount of extra work, so to speak, that maintainers and contributors would have to take on to do an exercise like this. So a couple quick meetings. Typically there is a kickoff or technical walkthrough at the beginning, where this can be a great way for project contributors and maintainers, people who have intimate knowledge of how a project works and is intended to function, to then share that insight with security auditors who are getting acquainted with the project and starting to dig into the code. Excuse me. There's also a number of checkpoints, calibration sessions. These can all be based on the preferences of the individual projects. We have some that prefer full async, Slack, or something similar. We have other projects that prefer a weekly or bi-weekly, just quick sync meeting to talk about the effort. And going back to my earlier point about really meeting projects and their maintainers and contributors, meeting them where they're at is not prescribing a specific method or process, but adapting to what the project's needs are and what would serve the project the best. Next, this is arguably maybe the scariest part of the scariest point or point of contention with security audits would be the remediation and fixing process. You know, what happens after. As I mentioned, the importance of doing the security audit in a high impact way is working with teams that understand open source projects, open source development life cycles, and are willing to work with the contributors and maintainers, especially when it is requested, working with audit teams that provide proofs of concept, even PRs and fixes all packaged up for them, as well as doing fix reviews, so reviewing fixes after they have been implemented to do verification. And lastly, there is a publishing step of coordinating publishing between all the parties. We have found that by doing so, by coordinating publishing and connecting all of the parties to publish concurrently, that makes a bigger splash and spreads the word better as to the effort, the results of the effort. A couple references for further information. As I mentioned, we post all of our audits online for free to access. Those can all be accessed at those links there, as well as the specific collaborations with OpenEXR and with MaterialX. As I'm hoping was illustrated by this talk today, there's a lot of coordination that goes into these types of efforts and engagements. Many thank yous to go out, but some of the top ones would be for, of course, the Academy Software Foundation, John Murtick and Emily Olin. From the MaterialX project, big thank you to Jonathan Stone. For the OpenEXR project, big thank yous to Carrie Phillips and Kimball Thurston. And lastly, last but not least, the audit team, which for these engagements is a firm out of Italy called Shielder. I want to thank them as well, to Pietro, Smauri, Davide, and Claudio. And with that does complete my talk. I know I'm a couple minutes early, so I will be outside in the hallway as well as around for the rest of the day and afternoon for any questions. But really, thank you all for having me. This is my first Open Source Days conference, and I was absolutely thrilled to talk about these collaborations that we did today, and would be happy to answer any more questions, both here at the conference and offline if needed. So with that, thank you, and have a good afternoon.